All right, I'm Justin Nagel. I'm the only candidate that's from Kootenai County, Idaho. I've lived here for my entire life. I've private investigated for 25 years here locally, and I'm looking forward to everybody's vote on Tuesday.
Why did you decide to run for sheriff?
A long list of reasons. There's been several major events in Kootenai County that have been swept under the rug. For example, Misty Phelps drowning in Fernand Lake. I had actually interviewed people around her prior to her death, and that is in the police report, and somehow it got ruled as a suicide double homicide. We should be asking those types of questions of how that happened, what did we learn from it, who all was involved. There's the current administration, Bob Norris, when he campaigned last time I talked to him was on April 15th, 2020, with Lee Brainerd, who was a captain for Coeur d'Alene City at the time, and he had Captain Jason Mueller with the Post Falls City Police Department, along with Commissioner Chris Felios, about some upcoming events that were going to happen. And instead of protecting those people, knowing, of course, we have to remember that at the time he was campaigning that he was working for the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, representing himself as a police officer. And when the events happened, he failed to protect those people's rights. He took them into custody, which is, of course, the job of the sheriff. Everybody that goes into jail is in custody. So basically the number one thing that he did that he could have done, he failed at doing. Of course, right out of the gates, if we were to search the internet, he threatened to pepper spray a journalist for walking too close to a stop. But if we watch that footage, he extended a stop, which has been unconstitutional since 2015. So that was about the first 3 months of him being the sheriff, along with taking an endorsement from our previous undersheriff, which was against the county policy. And what that shows is just a complete lack of respect for the public from law enforcement, which has been a continuing problem. And that goes into the retention problems with Kootenai County Sheriff's Office and the staffing problems.
You've obviously come prepared, with your motivation to run. Talk about some of the main subjects main issues that you see facing the county.
The main issues I see facing the county are public corruption. As I was speaking earlier about the Misty Phelps event, we have a problem with retaining testimony at the courthouse. I testified to the upcoming Wasco murders and a couple other events, and that testimony's disappeared from the courthouse. But the staff remember it, and everybody who was in the courtroom remember it. And for some reason, that's not even being looked at. So without having a justice system, we shouldn't be making arrests and throwing people. That should be the number one concern of everybody, is not having an intact judicial system. And it's not even being looked at as far as I know.
What would you do to change what's happening?
We can tell from leadership in the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office and dispatch that we have the incorrect people in leadership roles. People very rarely quit a good job; they quit bad bosses, and that's been the same problem as the sheriff's office has had. In the past, it's all been because of nepotism. Not necessarily all of it, but nepotism plays a big role. Everybody wants treated fairly at their job, and a path laid out in front of them how they can progress. And it's not done. It's basically usurped by favoritism instead of people going in and doing a good job and getting promoted.
The other candidates have talked about fentanyl. Other candidates have talked about fentanyl being a big issue in the area, and just opioids in itself. What do you think of how the county is dealing with that?
Well, again, we shouldn't even really be talking about, this is a difficult subject to address. We really shouldn't be addressing fentanyl as the number one problem. 4 years ago, what we need to look at as citizens is 4 years ago we had a few different topics. It was teen suicide and methamphetamines. So to go here we are 4 years later, and we're talking about completely different topics. So in order to succeed at fentanyl, we would have needed to succeed at methamphetamines, but of course we continually fail at it. So really what the public needs to do is stop listening to politicians, tell them what the issues are. If we're on drug patrol, we're on drug patrol. And the path that historically for 10 or 15 or 20 years in America is that we lose wars on drugs. So anybody can promise you something about fentanyl, but we're going to lose. We don't have a winning plan. So there's a huge problem with the leadership, the other candidates and current leadership, where we just keep stomping down the same path. And this is something I like to point out to people. If we watch press releases in the news, we never have a major bust of a kingpin. Every time there's an incident, the police put out photos of somebody they arrested that's missing half their teeth and driving a 25-year-old car, and that's it. We never have arrested a kingpin. I can't remember one in the 25 years that I've been here. Those are the things that we should be looking at, because either our local police are failing at building a file to turn into federal government, or the federal agencies are failing. And you need the role of the sheriff, and all of us as citizens is protecting each other. And of course, the founding fathers told us that the number one thing that we need to protect ourselves against is a bad government. And it's definitely here in Kootenai County, and it has been for 25 years.
We've kind of already talked about it, but in general, how would you describe the state of the county? These are just questions that we can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Generally, the state of the county, in my experience here, living here, the community's definitely changed, where people that moved in are used to relying more on government. And in Idaho, that would be called a Democrat, but somehow everybody's Republican. And we see that with party problems, picking candidates, getting people on ballots. Our system only works if there's two strong parties debating each other, and we simply don't have it. Can you reread the question?
What do you see of the state of the current?
The
state of the county currently.
Yeah, so the state of the county, in my experience, people came forward in the Misty Phelps incident, in the other incidents, the Moscow murders, major headliners that the public should be concerned about. We have people here in the county that will speak up, and the county and the people can take care of the problems. We don't have police forces that are willing to do their jobs. And that's once again, the major problem in the county. So the state of the county and the county government, I would say, is poor and low. But the people here, we still have the people. And more by the day, really. But we don't have the correct leadership in our inside of all of our police departments. There's too much of a buddy-buddy system. The whole thing where everybody's a cop and everybody's cross-deputized, now we have special deputies, is the problem. There's way too much government and not enough space for people.
Is there anything in particular that you would like the public to know about yourself, and that people should know about,
I don't like to talk bad about people, but Bob Norris unfortunately lies about everything he says. We can go back through his public statements. He claimed he was endorsed in the first campaign by the Coeur City Police Department, and he flat out lied about it to win the primary. Like I say, he failed to protect two particular people that I specifically told him about. I named the dispatcher that was going to be on duty, the police officers involved, and he just turns a blind eye to it. We have another problem with the Idaho State Patrol. Part of what I testified to was that Kyle Fitz, which was a Post Falls police officer, was following around a kid named Cody Bowman. He's a juvenile, and he was going to pull Cody over out at Twin Lakes in his Post Falls police car, and that Lieutenant Ashby was going to go ahead and falsify an investigation to cover him for it. It's because they're not lawful investigations. They're not based on documents from police departments. They're based on their gossip and their personal business interests. we need to remember that we had a captain fired from the sheriff's office for not providing investigative files to the ATF, and I was the person that turned him in. We had explosives trafficking years and years ago, which turned into human trafficking and all the things nobody wants to talk about. Drugs, of course, involved in that. But the time frame that was covered was him, Dan Sumis, because the department changed hands, and government entities are governed by business law. So those files were actually Dan Matos, Dan Sumis, Kim Edmondson, who ran for county sheriff, Ben Wolfingers, and of course how the feds found out was somebody prosecuted on them, so that includes our Barry McHugh, who's now a judge. Nobody's asked another question about him, like where are the files? We paid a settlement out on that, and that is the types of things that law enforcement should be talking about, is not picking on every kid that comes across the border with their pipe. And I'm not for drugs. I personally don't indulge, but it's just not what we should be focusing on. We should have been taken down head of the snake, as they say, a long time ago, and for some reason it just looks more like Bob took that position over instead of doing his job.
All right, anything else you'd like to?
I think that's it. I appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Hope that everybody can check out my website, nagelsheriff.com.
All right. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.